It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games in the gaming industry, coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch and archived almost anywhere you can find podcasts. This is Ash here with you, along with Saib and possibly Moontag. She will be hopefully appearing over there momentarily, but for now, we get to see her cute little avatar. Hello to everybody who's active in the live chat. Hi, Terror. Hi, Niv. Great to see you. If you are listening live today, please do say hello in the live chat and send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And of course, don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells YouTube and us that you appreciate this content. Sorry, a little distracted here. I'm surprised I'm able to. Yeah, sorry.
The thing and the thing with the
thing
the
with the thing.
thing
Hit the like button. Hit the sub button. Check out the main channel. Hi Xmex. Hi Jasmine.
Hi everybody.
No avatar. Well, she's got a tiny little avatar in that gray box there. But unless do I have the? Oh, there we go. There we go. There she is.
You just have it in the wrong thingamabob with the.
There's Moontag holding the cat.
Commander.
Commander's here for the show. So, yeah, put your comments and questions in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we can throughout the podcast about whatever topics we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about Blizzard. We're going to be talking about a few other things, plus a fuller Deathloop review. Later on in the show, I'm going to give a more full Deathloop review now that I've been playing it for a week and absolutely loving it. It's a really good game, and I'll tell you why, and I'll also tell you what's not great about it. There are a couple of things. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. The big news right now, of course, is everything that's going on with Blizzard. Oh, it's just a disaster. But
if you're sitting there going, wait a second, why are you covering the old Blizzard news? No. Don't change your channel, ladies and gentlemen. That's not old Blizzard news. This is new Blizzard news.
It doesn't stop, guys.
It doesn't stop. It's like every other day. It's like something like horrifying, crazy, stupid, like just like dumbfounding, like all that stuff has been happening.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what's going on right now. But first, something that's hopefully not a disaster, but there's a good chance it will be, but maybe not. A new Star Wars game in production at Quantic Dream, the studio behind Detroit Become Human. Detroit Become Human, of course, they also did Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and all games that I have heard nothing but good stuff about. So this could potentially be Niv's sigh, Star Wars. Yeah, I know. Look, I'm a Star Wars fan. I can't help it.
There's a Star Wars anime dropping tomorrow.
Yeah, what the heck's that about?
So I don't really know. Like, this is the first time I've heard of it because, frankly, I've been like just rolling my eyes at every piece of Star Wars news that we've had coming out. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be terrible. I don't know what's going on with it. Airs tomorrow. I guess we'll...
Airs where, though? Where can we see it?
Disney, of course, obviously.
Oh, Disney. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Wait.
Well then.
So, yeah. I mean,
well, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out when I can view it on things.
Things and stuff. I will view it legally tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to check out. Not everything with Star Wars has been bad.
I'm not gonna hype it up because it's like it looks like a legit like anime movie, which again it just beggars the mind that Disney has had this for this long. One of the most popular fan projects was that TIE Fighter anime inspired version of like so it's this TIE Fighter that's like fighting like X-Wings and stuff like that in space. it's really well animated for being a fan project. It was absolutely amazing. You would probably recognize it if you looked it up. It's been out for a very long time on YouTube, and it's just been sitting there. And again, it's like they're like, oh hey, yeah, should we Disney's like, should we do something with this? Nah, we don't care.
No.
It's like, hey, you know what the most like popular medium is right now in like comics and sci-fi and stuff like that? It's anime.
Well,
and heroes and stuff. It's like, oh hey, should we do something about? Nah, it's fine. We'll just keep on ignoring.
Well, they are now.
this.
Apparently, they have figured it
Yeah,
out.
now
And they didn't even. There wasn't even a lot of hype, unless it's one of. Of course, they came out and announced like 2,700 shows all at once.
Yeah,
sometime last year, and so of course
and
it's impossible to remember all of.
Largely, we haven't cared because all of their stuff up until now has been, well, with the exception of the Mandalorian. Okay, sorry.
The Bad Batch has been pretty good.
Exception of Mandalorian, Bad Batch, all the animated stuff, anything with those guys running it, that thing has been great. Yeah. But other horrendous news, like what they're doing to KOTOR and all this other stuff, is just absolutely horrifying. And I don't think we're going to get the KOTOR that we want. I think we're going to get an absolutely brutal version of it that doesn't even make coherent sense anymore. That's what we're going to get out of that, because it's just
we just don't understand their vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's their vision.
The vision of
rebuilding one of the most popular games in gaming history. We're just going to rebuild it, and we're going to translate all of the things that should have been there to begin with.
Yeah. So, what is the vision of someone who's in charge of the remake of a game who doesn't like the original game?
Doesn't like the original game, went on record on their Twitter post, tweet still up as far as I know, said, you know what, I really don't respect this world that was created because it wasn't inclusive or big enough. It's like, first of all, Star Wars. It's Star Wars with aliens and stuff. There's like all kinds of wacky, crazy looking small aliens, big aliens, giant cow alien type things. A worm that
goes
lives
way
in the
beyond
rocks.
human. And quite frankly, I mean, anyone who thinks Star Wars doesn't have diversity even among the human characters just hasn't watched Star Wars.
Yeah,
and I mean, the most rabid fans of new Star Wars who say that old Star Wars sucks just baffle my mind. Because it's like the people who are like, oh yay, we finally have a female captain on Star Trek. You mean you're talking about the new show? You mean like Janeway, or
you mean Janeway or Voyager? You mean that? Oh no,
what's
you
Voyager?
Don't mean that. Oh, you meant? Did you mean something in the main series? It's like, okay, well, I don't know what you mean by main series, but there were plenty of female captains that swung by, in the
female captains, female admirals.
Series. Oh no, it's that's not what we're talking about. Okay, then what are you talking about? Well, we just want more representation. It's good to finally have an African American captain. It's like,
oh really? Okay. Shall I introduce you to Deep Space Nine?
Where they had three of the most prominent African American captains in the show's history, and they just forgot about that. Well, and then they tell us that, oh well, you're clearly racist. It's like, no, maybe you're just judging by the fact that you didn't know any of this stuff existed. I'm going to go on a limb and say it's not our problem.
Niv says, I'm in Star Wars for the Twi'lek chicks. Well, there you go. That's why you're one of those problematic old school Star Wars fans.
You're not going to get your hands on that, despite the fact that is it's. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, we're off on a big tangent. Anyway, this Quantic Dream Star Wars game. Hopefully, it's good. I wonder if it'll be more of a story-driven experience than an action-driven experience like the other games they've done.
But one thing we can confirm now is that EA definitely doesn't have a control over the Star Wars IP anymore.
Well, we've known that for some time, and we've so this is another.
No, we theorized on it, and we had talked about it, coming to an end. But like this is 100% now.
Well, we
And
talked.
this-
Didn't we talk?
the dumb thing is that they haven't announced that this deal has been over. There has been no announcement that they've ended or they've changed their deal with EA. EA still in places claims that it has total control over the Star Wars brand when it comes to video games. They made that they confirmed that just a few months ago, like internally.
Yeah.
But clearly they don't. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on over there, but somebody's lost their head.
Yeah, clearly they don't. But I could have sworn we talked on this podcast like a year ago about different studios that were now working on Star Wars games. Different non-EA studios.
We did. It's just EA has still been sitting on the record saying that it has the primary control over the EA or over the Star Wars branding in video games.
Yeah.
And that's clearly not true anymore.
Clearly it's not, yeah.
Like, where is
So
their next Star Wars game
who do they
coming?
think they're fooling? Yes, hello Arturo. There's some more hellos in the chat.
Also, thank you, Sword Sister.
And yeah, Terra K, that's one of the ones I'm talking about. Ubisoft and then some other studios as well. Mad King says, I don't know what I entered into, but it's interesting. You know what? Then
Welcome.
we've achieved our objective. I don't know what this is, but I kind of like it. Kind of like when you accidentally click on a link in a spam email that you meant to click delete on. Did I say that out loud? Okay, so one other quick... Oh, you wanted to talk about a classic arcade that's closing or something?
There's a video game arcade in Japan, and it is closing its doors. One of the oldest arcades in the world. It's 28 years old, and I've got to say that once again, my father has been proven right. Back in the mid 80s, just after the video game crash of '83, I was like, hey, I want to invest and start going into this whole video game industry. I think it's on the rise, and he told me that's a foolish thing to invest in. There's no money and there's no future in that either. And I got to say, he's right. Arcade after arcade after arcade has been closing like crazy for the past decade or two or three. And it's just there's just no there's so few video game arcades showing up these days. And I got to say, it's
no future in video games.
It's just
no future in video games at all.
So,
well,
yes, if you get the reference,
that's true. If you're Blizzard, but
my father then later he made me a game that I had to pass in order to receive my inheritance. So,
did he really? Or are you
no?
BSing?
This is a bit, and if you watch the cool shows, you know what the bit is from. So, anyways,
I do watch the cool. Has anyone checked out Only Murders in the Building? I've seen the first episode, and it was really good.
It sounds like a terrible building to put your business.
Okay, the cast.
I'm just gonna say
Steve Martin, Martin Short.
Oh, that's
and
what
Selena
I've seen
Gomez.
those ads for. I've seen those ads recently, and I was like, "What in the world is this?" But they never. You could never see the ad quick enough to actually understand what that is. So that's interesting. I like Steve Martin. He's a funny actor.
Yeah, but also
anyways,
let's talk about Blizzard. So Blizzard, every week I think this can't possibly get worse, and it gets worse. So Blizzard's, we just found this out. Blizzard's it was this one we just found out. The executive producer of Overwatch is leaving Blizzard. Blizzard's chief legal officer resigns after 3 years. Claire Hart has announced her resignation, and interesting that that's happening in the midst of massive lawsuits. I don't know what the chief legal officer does, but maybe she was just like, time to bail on this sinking ship, potentially. And
in February of February 2021, just a few months ago, they were trading at 104 cents.
Okay.
Like 104. So like, that's not cents. It's $104 per share.
Okay, wow.
Things were glorious back then. Today they've dipped down to 72. So
This may
if you're
be...
wondering, yes, that's a quarter of their company that's more than a quarter of their company's assets, fiscal assets, that have crashed and burned in the last less than a year.
Ouch.
Could that be why the SEC is now investigating?
Mm-hmm.
The SEC, if you're not familiar, is the Security and Exchange Commission in the United States. They're kind of a watchdog / investigation branch of the government that basically is out to protect investors. This is the bottom line. Protect them from getting screwed over. That's what I understand. I'm not an expert on what they actually do, but anyway, this is a government agency. It's like, I don't know if it would fall into the same kind of rank, like same kind of thing as the FBI or the CIA or whatever, but it's one of those alphabet agencies, and they focus on financial things. So anyway, now they're looking into how Blizzard handled everything. Actually, it summarizes it pretty good in this article. A harassment lawsuit has recently prompted the SEC to investigate Activision Blizzard's handling of employee complaints about sexual misconduct and discrimination, with several company executives, including CEO Bobby Kotick, subject to subpoenas. So they are now subpoenaing Bobby Kotick, and among other things, they want to see his emails. They want to see the emails he's sent, for example, to people like J. Allen Brack, the head of Blizzard, when all of this shit was going on, when everything was going down that they are now investigating. They want to see those emails. Could be big trouble. If it's all going to come out in the wash now, and that's why I say, are they going to come back from this? There
has been so many leaders that have left Blizzard in the last year alone. Not even like the 3 years prior to this. Just in the last year, so many people have left so quickly, and I think it's because they knew, and they are well aware that this was all coming in. And I believe that a certain head of the company knew about this stuff too and hid it from his investors, which is illegal, by the way. And this is about to come down on him like a lightning strike. Now, I want to cover some stuff here that's kind of important in this. That back a few years ago, Bobby Kotick was I believe it was the 64th most overpaid CEO in the world, according to this chart. Excuse me.
You mute your mic to cough, and I can hear it through Moontech's mic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Such a loud cougher.
So there's this site that keeps track of the most overpaid CEOs.
So he was 64th, but he was top in the gaming industry, if I recall.
Yeah, he was top in the gaming industry, but he was 64th worldwide. Guess what position he landed in as of a couple of months before all of this stuff broke? The 18th most overpaid.
You didn't let me guess. I was going to say 20th.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's Nelson Holdings, Mr. David King.
Wow.
But yeah, he's one of the most overpaid CEOs. He takes in a ridiculously high percentage of their yearly income,
For doing what?
well over 13%, close to 14% of the company's annual income is diverted into his pocket.
That is ridiculous.
For a company that legendarily pays their baseline employees so little that they have to be on food stamps, that they have to use coffee as a dietary suppressant. Yes,
That's
that
absurd.
guy.
Wow.
The guy, like, there's some of these other companies, like it's some of these people, like, they make so much money.
It's
ridiculous.
disgusting.
It's like some of these
he
companies
doesn't
are
even
taking,
know
like,
what his game does.
Well,
like, he couldn't tell you a dang thing about anything in his video.
because
game
his
at all.
job is business.
Yeah, which he hasn't been very good at.
Fair, and
Crap.
I know very little about that side of things, but yeah, he's definitely not a gamer. Let's put it that way. Except probably golf. But
I'm really hoping that some people end up in prison over this stuff, because, again, in case you missed it, somebody died. Somebody committed suicide over this stuff. This isn't small fry. This company has been caught absolutely red-handed doing some of the worst things you can do to your own employees. Shredding their documents and again, this is a
was
story
that verified?
that we broke. We broke this story. We
Good.
broke this story with mostly I broke it on the Upper Echelons channel. We also talked about it over on the Disability channel, and then here is that we reported early on that we had uncovered evidence that seemed to point at the fact that the company was routinely shredding information from people who had been complaining about certain things that were illegal going on at their company, and HR and Bobby Kotick was arranging it so that large packs of those employees, where a large number of those people who were complaining, the victims and their perpetrators, were getting fired. And were being turned, and then the evidence of their stories was being eaten up, was being shredded, basically. Now, of course, it's not shredded so much as it's deleting it off the servers. These days, it's a little bit,
well, digital shredding is a process of they call it shredding. It's more secure. When you delete a file in Windows, for example, just using the delete button and then emptying it out of your recycle bin, the file isn't actually removed. It deletes the reference to the file, unless you use a shredding software that actually writes over the space on your hard drive where that file was. And that's called digital shredding, where it actually makes sure the file is scrubbed and gone. And there's different levels of that. But anyway, so it's very shady stuff. Meanwhile, they're busily focused on making the most important improvements to their games, which is, of course, removing all the boobs. That's what's important right now.
They took two artist pictures that are pictures within the game, so they're literal like paintings that are hanging in digital walls within the game. They took one of a girl laying on her side in a dancer's outfit, which is not that revealing. You see way more skin by just going to a conservative beach. Like, it's not that bad. And they took that and they turned it into a bowl of fruit. So, yes, when Blizzard was caught, having staff that were, objectifying women, the company said, hey, we got to stop that, and we got to start putting that into the game. We'll actually take women and we'll actually turn them into objects in the game, And then they took another girl who had a thin cleavage that ran from, her neckline down to, like, not even close to her belly button. And it was thin. It wasn't big. It wasn't overly. You didn't see side boob. You were just seeing general cleavage. Again, you see a lot more just going to the grocery store in some places. Mm-hmm. And they cut that out They changed her face, they changed her body, they gave her a nice narrow, like, basically you see collarbone and that's about it. And I am disgusted by this, immensely so that I can barely speak on it. So I want Moon's opinion, because Moon, you have the right to speak about this more so than I do. So please go ahead.
You have the required.
What's your
required
opinion,
uterus? What? Yeah.
What's your opinion on that perspective of things?
They're very much projecting their own views on this censorship of the female body. It's like absolutely, what's the word? I keep saying disgusting, but it's like it's rude.
No, disgusting's good. Yeah, that's a good starting point for this.
Because it's like, how dare you? Like, everybody has a mom. Everybody is born from somebody with a womb. Like, the female form is not a foreign concept. If we didn't gravitate towards the female form, we wouldn't have babies. Like, heck. Like, I will dress how I want to.
Well,
I understand.
You can't just bring science into this, Moon. Come on.
There's like, a lot of girls should like get the lessons growing up. It's like, your looks have a certain power. Your body has a certain power. And these people are just trying to cover it all up. And it's rude. It's so controlling and shallow, because it's like, they're claiming to be progressive or libertarian by censoring other people for their bodies.
Well, they would never claim to be libertarian, I don't think. That's like a dirty
like
word.
Like,
yeah,
right?
I know what you mean. Sorry to mansplain.
Right.
I'll go flog myself now.
But yeah, it's ridiculous that the things that they're claiming that they're against, they're doing exactly that. It's
they wind up.
hypocritical.
I agree. They wind up having the So what are they doing when they're trying to? So they're literally erasing women from the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like so much for like presentation, and what was that other word you used earlier? Representation. There you go. So much for representation.
Yeah.
Heck.
And again, it's like. I mean, we could go on and on with this for days. I really hate this. Like, I cannot express in coherent words the level of my anger and how much I despise this line of thinking. Because again, this is a new level of Puritanism that looks at women and looks at girls and says, you should be ashamed of who you are. And it's like, I thought we weren't supposed to do that.
No, it used to be about.
We're moving away from that.
Didn't it used to be about empowerment and making that choice for yourself?
No. Again, so you might think I'm being overly whatever here, but again, I can't iterate. My words start to fail me because the rage about this is so strong. It's the people that make these decisions now, they were never about empowerment. It's like famous people that famous guys who go on, hard and heavy about, how much of a wonderful feminist they are. It's like, you can never trust those people who sound off like that. You can respect women and not walk around with a trumpet declaring how much of a wonderful feminist you are, because out of the ones just on YouTube alone in the last few years, let alone Hollywood in the last 5 years, we have seen some of the most disgusting, degenerate, violent people who end up being like not just violent, murderous towards other women or towards women. And they're the ones who were walking around with this trumpet. And again, I'm not saying people who believe in women's rights. I'm not saying that, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the people that walk around with a trumpet declaring themselves to be the moral Puritans and the finest examples of what you should be doing and how much better than they are from you. It's those people, especially the men, who sit there and go, I'm the best. I am the absolute best. If you're a woman and you hear a guy talking about how he's such a wonderful feminist and how he is so much better than the average guy that you will meet, if you ever encounter one of these people, get away from him very quickly, because the chances of him being discovered to have been brutally beating, or in some cases even killing a woman, those are a lot higher than you think it is. Well, it's scary.
They say it
how
because
much
they're trying to
there.
convince themselves as well as you that they're such a good person. Speaking from personal experience.
Yes, your personal experience in this in the field of dealing with people who say that they're that they respect you, and then them using every
Pretty
way,
much
shape, and form to put you down.
Oh my gosh. Like talking about lifting me up and making me better than who I was, and then cutting me down every chance they got. No thanks.
There is, I have come to live by a general rule that, granted, maybe may not always be true, but in general, the more a person brags about how they are X, usually they're not that, like, people who go around talking about how smart they are usually not that smart. They like to people on the internet who like to use big words and word things in such a way that they sound snooty and sophisticated, and I'm like, you're not that smart, are you? You just have to. No. But
or they always
it applies.
Feel the need to play devil's advocate just because they want to tear apart whatever you just said, just because they can. Like, you could take apart any sentence.
Sure.
It's not that hard.
But I think when it comes to signaling one's own virtue, that is the same thing. And I'm not talking about, like, if something, we could be accused of that right now, I suppose. But because we're like, oh, this is horrible, and it is. But I don't know. It's like I teach my daughters. I've already told my daughters are they're not teenagers yet. I've already told them they're guys are going to lie to you. I've told them guys are going to lie to you to get you to do what they want you to do. And so don't ever believe a guy's words. If he says, "Oh, you're great and I love you," you make him prove it.
I just want to point out. I just want to point out in the chat, Sword Sister and Psycho Spartan Chick, both of you guys have such great comments in this regard, and I really, Sword Sister, we talk fairly frequently, and I got to say, I'm always proud of the way that you guys have talked about this stuff in the past, because this is absolutely true. Their experiences with this, they're seeing what it does in their own life, in their own place where they live. It's tough and it's brutal and it's hard, and of course it's a very broken line, right? Either side of the extreme goes down, big pits very quickly, and it's very difficult to do it. But it's also something, and again, I don't want to get too preachy here, because that's the thing that I'm warning against. But it's a difficult thing, but it has to be something that is extremely well thought through and extremely well debated in your own mind. And again, I don't want to get into that because we'll be here for like several hours. Yes. But I want to point out that hypocrisy is where the danger's at. It's the hypocrisy on either end of the spectrum. It's the hypocrisy of parents telling children that they're adult children, that babies come from storks. And I have met people who have told their children this. They're children who are 17, 18, 19 years old, that babies come from storks, from birds or from fairies who drop them off at the family, because they're they're trying to insulate them so much to the point that it's that it's ridiculous.
It's crippling.
It's crippling ridiculousness. And and then on the other side of things, you have to beware the people who will tell you, oh yeah, be free, because they want to use you and abuse you. They want to use you like a rag and drop you and discard you when they're done. It's like there's a very big difference between those two perspectives, but it really boils down to a lot of the same mentality I found. Anyways,
Control.
not Microsoft, but Blizzard is digging their own grave quickly. They got caught red-handed doing union busting things, threatening their employees. They've been caught trying to implement payback or punishment into certain groups that have complained. Of course, there's the extreme. There always is when people kind of use this and abuse this. But as I pointed out, I think on this topic several times before, it's like Activision loses their right to defend themselves from those kinds of attacks when they're caught red-handed the day before or the day of, that trying to muscle out the employees, like, gathering together and trying to like form a union. They lose their ability to deny and say that, oh, not all of these complaints were real. Some of them were made up, which is a horrible thing, because it just cheapens what a victim is when people make lies up to destroy or to get clout or something. And we've talked about that on this channel a lot. We know people in the industry who've had lies spread about them because somebody wanted to make money or have a moment, air quotes, and so they lose their ability to defend themselves from this when they're caught again and again and again. Just recently, as of a few weeks ago, shredding more documents and trying to bust up the employees' ability to like group up together and work as a cohesive unit. That's disgusting. It's terrible, and they're getting caught over and over and over again. And with this subpoena on Bobby Kotick's like personal emails,
his emails. Oh boy, I think
I really hope he wasn't as smart as I think he might be.
Well, I would not hope. I mean, I would never hope to find out that somebody is a terrible person. But I mean, if he is a terrible person,
yeah. So I mean, yes, everybody deserves their day in court.
If he was actively covering this stuff up and trying to, suppress it and not take, doing all this shady stuff, if he was involved, because I think he's been trying to distance himself. If he was actually aware of what was going on, then yeah, that needs to come out, and people need to see what's actually going on behind the scenes at some of these companies, and how the stuff can go so long without being talked about. But you could say, like, I thought the same thing about Hollywood when, just when all the Me Too stuff was happening, and suddenly you had all these celebrities coming out and doing, giving these speeches, and these people who've been working in Hollywood for decades and have made, well, even Oprah came out and like gave this speech at some event, and I was like, you fucking knew, guaranteed you knew this shit was going on. You didn't say anything about it until the political tides turned against you. Like Weinstein, we're way off in the reeds. Let's just leave it there. I mean, it's an important topic, but it's definitely like, when Hollywood celebrities start moralizing to us common dirty folk who actually work for a living. I did nothing. Very few things infuriate me more than somebody who's been a millionaire since they were in their teens because they were on some hit show, lecturing me about how I should be living my life. It's like, okay, sure, shut the heck up. Okay, you're listening to the.
I love Ricky Gervais for his roasts, but no,
Ricky Gervais. He's fun.
Yeah.
All right, you got a game review. Let's hear this.
Yeah, well,
review.
first of all, I just want to say you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We love seeing you all so active in the live chat. Glad to have a lively show today. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. If you're not there already, you can find the link in the description below. You can also find links to the merch store. We have Triple S merch with the logo, and also, we haven't talked about this in a while, but you can find some merch there with original Moontag artwork on it. I went and looked through it today, and I was like, oh, it still looks fantastic. So go check that out. And also, the Discord server, like I said, the Patreon, if you want to check that out. We appreciate everything you do. Also, go sub over at our main channel if you're not there. We have lots of content there, comedy, game guides, gameplay videos of various types. We do it's a big schmozzle over there. We do all kinds of things to the point where sometimes I don't even know what our channel is, but it's there, and somehow we've built a community around it, so we love it. Honestly, the fact that we're where we are with YouTube still baffles me. But anyway, glad you're all here. Really appreciate it, of course. We do have a Patreon page. Yeah, I believe you can find that in the description below as well. All right, so I do have a game review. So I'm going to talk about Deathloop. So So I'm going to give a more full review of Deathloop than I gave last week, and unfortunately I don't have gameplay footage here, but if I cut this into its own video on the other channel, I will splice in some gameplay video. But last week, of course, I talked about... I gave my first impressions review of Deathloop, and I had a very, very high impression of the game, and I still do. There's really nothing I said last week that I would change. I just want to flesh that out and really give a more full review, because I promised I would. Now, where the heck did I put my notes on it? Sorry, just flipping through my documents here. So how's everybody's evening been? Oh, shoot. What file did I put it in? Damn it. I write notes in, like, all of these different text files, and sometimes I lose track of them. Okay. So I've titled this Deathloop review A Fun Romp with a Few Annoying Flaws. And it's specifically a fun time loop romp. And that, I think, sums it up pretty well. I've had a blast with it. I've found it to be a really fun game. And I think that if you're a fan of Arcane's previous games, if you're a fan of Dishonored, Dishonored 2, and or Prey, I think you will really like this game, and you should definitely check it out. Last week, the reviews on Steam were mixed because of technical problems. Like, pretty much every negative review I looked at was referencing the fact that the game wasn't running well, they were getting stuttering, low frame rates, that kind of thing. If you look at it today, the reviews are mostly positive. So there's been either a whole bunch of more positive reviews that have come over the course of the week, or a whole bunch of people went back and changed their review from not recommended to recommended. I don't know which, but either way, it's mostly positive right now, because there were some patches this week that seem to have fixed some of the problems. I don't think they're 100% fixed, but I did see multiple reviews today that said, after the patch, after such and such patch, it ran much, much better. Oh, yes, and RIP Rhythmbot. I'm seeing...
Yes, RIP. F in the chat.
Yes, we discussed that last week. It's really too bad that Rhythmbot got taken down. Yeah, so anyway... So I don't want to change basically anything I said last week, but I will cover it all again and in a more thorough way. Basically, I'll start with what I didn't like, which, bear in mind, I give this game an 8 out of 10. So when I talk about what I don't like here, it didn't ruin my experience. But for a game that is what I'll call a Dishonored-like, kind of like, Prey was a little bit of a Dishonored-like. This one more so, with a focus on the powers and things like that. it was a bit of a disappointment in that aspect of it. The powers that you get as a protagonist, I feel they were passable. They were not bad, but I feel like they were really kind of bare bones as far as creativity goes. There really wasn't much innovative compared to Dishonored 1 and 2 or Prey. I think Prey, which of course also came out after Dishonored 2, had more creative powers, and that was also, a very high-tech setting in that game. I thought they were a little more creative with the powers. I feel like Arcane spent all of their creativity on world creation, and the world is amazing. The world's really good. They spent all their creativity there, which didn't leave much left over for coming up with cool powers. That's kind of the impression I got. So it's unfortunate in that respect. And I also commented last week that the combat was very basic, and I will echo that again tonight. It didn't really get any better. The boss enemies that you encounter, the visionaries that you're supposed to kill, they are smarter than the other enemies, but outside of some scripted intelligence, like some scripted behavior that they do, I just found overall the combat is very basic. It seemed like they were it was very predictable algorithms for how enemies behave, and while there are first of all, there's enemies everywhere. There's enemies everywhere, and they all want to kill you. But they all kind of like there are different personalities, different tactics that they'll use. Some just run right up at you without any regard for the fact that you're aiming a shotgun at their face. Others will take cover and try to snipe you. But whatever algorithms are controlling their behavior seemed very basic. So combat was not bad. It was not good. It was middle of the road. It was clearly not the focus of this game, which, in other words, it wasn't what they spent the majority of their time on. It was not. They were not aiming to make a combat game in a cool world, whereas with Dishonored, I would say, they definitely focused in on making the combat really, really good. With this one, it felt like the combat was more of a secondary element, which is too bad because I felt like that was a missed opportunity. If they had, say, they could have copied over the combat system from Dishonored 2 into this game and made no changes to it whatsoever, and it would have been better than what's there. So that's how I feel about it. Arturo's asking, did I play the game on easy or hard mode? I didn't see any difficulty settings. I wasn't even aware that there were. Are there? Psycho Spartan Chick saying, I hope he played it on a hardcore mode because it makes a difference. Is there a hardcore mode? I didn't even know that. Does that unlock after you finish the game? Because I'm right at the end right now, so that might change my opinion. If there's a harder difficulty mode, that might definitely change my opinion. Psycho Spartan Chick says,
did you not check?
I looked through all the menus. I didn't see anything. So either
it would be very funny if you completely missed it.
I'll go back and check on that, and if I find something, I'll make an addendum. I'm intending to turn this review into a video on the main channel. Yeah. So if I find something about that, I'll edit this to add that in. So okay, that's very interesting. I will check that out. In any case, so there was, I felt, at least on the difficulty I was playing on. But here's the weird thing though. It was still fairly difficult because of the volume of the enemies and the fact that a lot of them have deadly accurate aim. It was still difficult to deal with combat if you had more than like 2 or 3 enemies around you. Like if you got them on multiple sides of you, you were in trouble. So it's not like it was easy. It's not that it was easy. It just the AI. I wasn't impressed with the AI. That's what I'm saying. So let's see. I also commented here, I would have liked a more fleshed out melee system with at least the ability to parry. But in any case, So this was the major thing that pulled me out of the immersion and reminded me I was playing a game, was just how the enemies behaved. But other than that's my big complaint. And like I said, I still give this game an 8 out of 10 because it was, the world and setting were incredible. You know, so you're beyond the time loop aspect of it. The time loop is very cool, but you know, the island that you go to has layers of history that you uncover as you go through, as you dig deeper into what's going on in the game. You know, the people that are there presently while you're playing the game haven't always been there, and so you know, there were people who were there before, and then people who were there before them, and so you dig into all of those layers of history. So, considering they condensed this game into such a compact area, the history they built for this island was very, very interesting, and I love stuff like that. I love it when there's different layers of history in layers of lore in a game that you can dig up. Plus, just the things like the soundtrack were so good. You know, there's one of the characters in the game is like a 60s rocker guy, and
Nice.
they've written a whole album's worth of his songs. I don't actually know how many songs there were. There's at least 4 or 5, maybe more. But then they're all like, they're so good. They're so good. They sound like songs that could have been hit songs back in the 50s or 60s. And you know, it's in a lot of cases, and they're playing on radios throughout the world as you're going through. And so sometimes I would just sit and listen because the songs were so good. The guy who writes them is a total asshole, but that's another story. And which brings me to another point. The characters were very well written. Now, they're a little bit over the top in some ways, but that's kind of the style of the game. A little over the top. Colt and Juliana, both a little bit over the top. Their banter is, you know, very witty. Maybe not like, you know, witty to the point where it's like, yeah, it would really actually be difficult to, you know, be this witty in real time. But it's just really well written. The dialogue's really, really well written. One thing I noticed, like, there was not the reliance on cliches and cringe that I so often encounter. I hate cliched dialogue, and I didn't really encounter much of that in this game. So I was very happy about that. That's just a particular pet peeve of mine that, you know, I hate cliched dialogue, and so I was happy that I can't really think of any that I encountered. There's a hint in the game, a big hint. Some are calling it an Easter egg. It's not really an Easter egg because it just it comes during one of the major story cutscenes, and they actually dwell on it a little bit. This Deathloop very well might be set in the same world as Dishonored. Now, there might be some varying opinions about that. I kind of think that's really cool. They didn't rely, like, there was no hints of that other than this one part of the game. And I won't talk about what it is. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it could be the same world as Dishonored. And like, it's a very strong hint. It would explain a lot because there's a lot of similarities in, especially when it comes to the powers you use. Felt so much like Dishonored in some ways, even though, as I said earlier, I think Dishonored did it better. But just kind of the way that the graphics look when you're using the powers, I was like, this is so much like Dishonored. Might be the same world.
I have it on good authority, and it's become more and more hinted at recently. The hints are very small, very few and far between, but there is a hint that all of the worlds that Bethesda makes are all connected in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, I've seen similar things. Mm-hmm. They've definitely, I mean, they do that a lot. Well, at least a lot of their sub studios do. Like all of the id games are in the same universe. That's basically, or I should say the id original games like Wolfenstein, Doom, and Keen.
Elder Scrolls, and Fallout are being hinted at more and more that they are in the same universe.
I have a personal fan theory that I was going to make a video about years ago, basically demonstrating why Fallout and Wolfenstein were in the same universe. I never did make that video, but I had this fleshed out fan theory about it. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I mean, it's an interesting thing. There's some of them that I feel like would be a stretch to put them together, but it doesn't feel like a stretch if Deathloop and Dishonored are together. You know, that doesn't feel like a stretch. And even Prey, you could throw Prey in there potentially. Anyway, but yeah, I think there comes a point where there's too much of that, in my opinion, but that's a debate for another day. I just wanted to kind of point out that it might be the same world as Dishonored. But then there's the time loop. So this is the most intriguing part of the game. So there's 4 time periods throughout the day that you can go to, and you can visit one of 4 regions on the island in each of these time periods. And at the end of the day, everything resets except for a very few select things that don't reset. One of those things is your memory, of course. So all the information that you gather on one day carries with you into the next day, which is the next loop. And so the game turns into a big time puzzle as you try and figure out, what do I have to do in order to set things up so that I can accomplish all my objectives in the same day? Because that's the objective, that's the final objective of the game. So sometimes it's a question of figuring out where the hell is a character at a given time. Or if I perform a certain action in the morning, then it'll result in the character doing something different, being somewhere completely different than they would otherwise. Now, once you discover it, the game kind of spoon feeds it to you simultaneously. So, you know, it's not a game you necessarily need to be, having a stack of notebooks beside you to keep track of everything. The game keeps track of everything for you. I almost wish there was an option to turn that off so I could just figure it out all myself. But anyway, I guess they didn't want the difficulty curve to be too high. But it's regardless, it's a very fun discovery process. Saib, you asked me last week if the game was repetitive, and I didn't find it repetitive. You are going through the same areas over and over again, but there was enough variety and enough different things to explore in each area. Like, each area is fairly large and has different like sub-regions within it that I didn't get to the point where I found it repetitive. So now some players might find it repetitive, but there are things like at different times of day, you know, the different areas can be very different. For example, in the afternoon, the snowstorm blows in, and whereas, you know, you had nice weather in the morning, but in the afternoon, everything's covered in snow in all of the different areas of the island. And then in the evening, the snow still kind of sticks around, but there's this big nightlife going, or like in one area, there's like, that's where the nightlife is happening. And so there's like people everywhere. And there's cool stuff going on, whereas in other areas, it's almost deserted. So
does that mean it's like Christmas every day? Christmas every
well,
day?
if the time loop was on Christmas, it would be Christmas every day.
Oh, what a lovely thought! What a lovely thought! Yes.
Except then there's like cartoon. I watched a cartoon with my kids. Like Huey, Dewey, and Louie wished it was Christmas every day, and so they woke up every day and it was Christmas, and it became a nightmare for them. Like Christmas just wasn't fun anymore. Anyway, that's totally other. So, also you can always skip ahead to the time period you want, so there's no waiting around. So that was a really good feature that they put in. As I said, the dialogue was superb. Story quite intriguing. It keeps you guessing and asking questions, while at the same time it just lets you enjoy the ride, right? So it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, it's got the whole game has a very comical, whimsical edge to it, but at the same time, it also delivers some very serious and thought-provoking subtext with questions like, what if you were living the same day over and over again? What would that do to your mind? And after you've done that for hundreds and hundreds of years, how do you store all that information in there? And like, it asks these kinds of questions, and, you know, would you eventually go insane and just want to be done with it? So some thought-provoking stuff, as well as it just being kind of a whimsical setting. The ending boils down to one or two simple choices that you make at the end of the game. Don't expect a Dishonored style complexity of ending, sort of based on the way you played the game. They don't have that in there, which is, both a blessing and a curse, because it's like, well, you can totally screw things up and then go back and just go to the next loop and try it again with no consequence, because everything kind of resets, right? But at the same time, it'd be nice. Might be nice to have, like, I really liked that aspect of Dishonored, where it's like if you play a certain way, if you murder a lot of people, then you can only get the bad endings, and there's different degrees of things. But I think that wasn't necessarily necessary in this game, and they don't have that in this game. So, but if that affects your opinion of it going into it, then I would say, yeah, don't go in expecting that. And also expect a lot of questions to remain unanswered. The game, it spoon feeds you your objectives, but it does not spoon feed you the story at all, or the why are things a certain way. There's a lot of hinting, there's a lot of subtext, a lot of discovering the story through interacting with the world. It leaves a lot to theorize and wonder about at the end. Not really in a way that frustrated me, but kind of in a way where I might sit down with a friend who just finished playing the game as well, and have kind of a fun conversation about, like, why do you think this was? Why do you think that was? In that kind of a way, rather than, not in a way that frustrated me personally. But again, wanted to mention that because if that's not your jam, then maybe that's not the game for you. But overall, like I said at the beginning, if you enjoyed Dishonored and you enjoyed Prey, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy this game and get your money's worth from it. I definitely have. And I suspect that I'm not really sure how much replay value it's going to have, because Dishonored had a lot of replay value in the fact that you could play different ways and discover different endings that way. And also it would change your experience in game of, how playing certain ways. There isn't that much in this one. I don't know. I'm really, really curious to see, is there a different way to accomplish all the objectives, to kill all the visionaries, a different way than the one that the game just provides for you once you've discovered all the data you need? I'm very, very curious about that. So I might spend some time sitting down to try and figure that out. But I don't necessarily have high hopes for discovering something there. But that would be really, really awesome if there was actually alternate solutions that you could discover. That would be fantastic. I don't know if I can expect that or not, but all right. Just scrolling through the chat here to see if there's any questions. Do you, Cybermoon, do you have any questions?
No, I think the game is, I'm glad that it seems good, and I hope that they add a lot of DLCs, and I hope that we kind of get to delve into the story a little bit more, because that's the most interesting thing. I would, again, beg these companies to please, if you're creating an FPS, to tell a story, and maybe you might want to not, make it not just an FPS. Maybe you might want to add a handful more options, completely optional options. There's no point where more options are a worse thing, right? So it's just that looking at all of this, looking at all the the minor gripes that you have, that makes me worry a little bit for its future. But mostly, I'm happy with this, the way that you described it, the way you enjoyed your time, because it clearly goes to show that they are starting to push some boundaries and some of the more common problems that we've had with just FPS stories. because there is a lot of like things that are holding you back on that. So yeah, it's good to see that there's some change, there's some improvement, and I think that if improvement can keep on coming, then I think that we're looking towards a really great system just overall.
Sure.
So and again, when I say system, I mean like system of these types of games, because I mean with all of the FPSs that the Bethesda studios make, I am sure that we're going to see more of them. And I would beg that they look into offering a little bit more than just the same old when it comes to like you mentioned with the powers and abilities. It's like some of them weren't that great. It's like we want improvement in that category, and that will make this game, that will make them as a series, as a bunch of studios working together, that'll make them even better in the future. So that's my 2 thoughts on it. Again, I can't play it directly because I get motion sickness crazy, and I just choose not to become addicted to gravel. So yeah, because that stuff is wicked addictive. They usually have like if you're buying it in bulk, they'll ask you some questions. So
can you get hooked on that?
Oh yeah. No, it is one of the maintained. If you were to go to say Costco and buy a big stack of them, you can't just grab it and go. You got to go to the front desk. You got to ask, and they will ask you a series of questions, and they'll kind of like, and you'll start to be tracked as far as your purchases go, because again, it's one of those drugs where it doesn't really do anything for you other than make you less dizzy. It doesn't give you a high or anything like that, but you can definitely become addicted to just taking the pills. So
weird.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. I think I've taken it like twice in my whole life.
And again, this is why we ask the studio, please, think about people with motion sickness. I know it sometimes ruins the aesthetic of the game, but you don't have to make that. You don't have to go that far. You can just create some clever options. Give us some wide field of views, and then just give us more options. That's all. Look into doing more interesting things with like actual like head tracking visuals and improved first person experiences. Like look into that stuff, experiment, because I really think the whole like first person shooter thing, I really believe that has been holding back a lot of games because they just use the same formula over and over and over again. And I'm excited when people start to like kind of push out and try and break those barriers, because there's some really cool stuff out there. And it's really revolutionizing the gaming industry if you're looking in the right place.
Well, that's where Arcane, I feel, has done pretty well since Dishonored 2, and Prey. Prey, like Dishonored would not describe that as a first-person shooter. For one thing, it's more based on melee combat, and the shooting and range stuff is secondary. But I would call it a first-person, parkour action-adventure game. And I think that same thread has flowed through their following games. Like Prey was also very much like that, even though there was more shooting. It was more high-tech. And so it was a first-person shooter in that aspect, but it was less about the shooting and more about the the action-adventure aspect of it. And, exploration. And that was another one where, again, you're on the spaceship, you're on the space station, you're in a confined area, and, you have to kind of explore the whole thing, but you're going back through the same areas sometimes, multiple times, and things have changed in the meantime. I really like that aspect of it. And so this one, even though it is more gun-based as far as the combat goes. In fact, the melee, one of my complaints is that the melee wasn't fleshed out very much. But yeah, I would say it's not primarily a shooter, even though it clearly is a first-person shooter. It's primarily more action-adventure-y.
Yeah.
Could you have done a third I don't see any reason why a third person wouldn't work, but
it's not always about adding a third person. It's about adding a plethora of additional setting options.
Yes.
And that'll get rid of a good chunk of it. And then where it can permit, don't force it into one or the other. Just give the option, right? Like have it just defaulted to first person, but experiment to give that option of going third person in some games. I think you'll be surprised at how successful and how much that option is appreciated by people who just really hate the standard stereotypical shooter inputs. So yeah.
Psycho Spartan Chick comments, both Dishonored and Prey have a better storyline to me. Yeah, well, I mean that's fair. I would say that if I were to rank them, I would rank them Dishonored, Prey, and then Deathloop. To be fair though, I don't really remember Prey's storyline all that well. I remember some of the highlights of it, whereas Dishonored, like Dishonored 2, I think is one of the greatest games ever created. Dishonored just has a fantastic storyline, and that's part of what excites me. If Deathloop is actually part of the Dishonored universe, maybe they can carry on more Dishonored world story. Actually, and it's kind of fun because our friend Jamie, who is a massive Dishonored lore nut, she's got this theory about where in Dishonored's world this Time Rift Island is. She's already thinking through all that stuff, and I mean, she's more of an expert on it than me. So,
in my humble experience, I've got to say that if you're looking for an island that has some odd time dilation stuff, it's like Southern Pacific. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So yeah, don't try and find it by yourself. You will. That does not end well in the vast majority of cases. So don't try it.
So Psycho Spartan Chick also saying Deathloop really lacks the reason for being in the loop. Well, I think that I don't know. That's not a down. The reason for being in the loop is that these people wanted to be in a loop. Like that's what the whole the visionaries wanted to do. They wanted to create this paradise that went on forever, and you loop the whole, the same day over and over again. And then, but as with most elite visionaries who have such grand plans and like to muck with physics, it doesn't work out like they were planning for it to. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, if I understand your comment properly, like I feel like, yeah, it's kind of, what's the reason for being in loop? Well, it's a story element. I really like it. I mean, again, granted, that's an incredibly subjective element of it. So I didn't mind the story. I would agree that Prey and Dishonored had better stories, but anyway, quite enjoyed this game still, very, very much. And that's all I have to say about that. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here? We've gone a little long. I thought we were going to go short tonight, but I must have blathered on a lot longer than I intended to.
Mm-hmm.
Moon, what have you been playing lately?
Well, Stardew is always pretty great, honestly, because it's like, it's so low key. It's nice after a long day where I'm just like, yes, farm my little beautiful pixel farm and meet my little pixel friends and my beautiful little pixel town.
Nice.
Yeah. It's very cute. Right now I'm playing in like the fall season, so I was like, yes, just like real life.
Yes, I can't believe, oh shoot, we're almost in October. It's crazy.
So that means it's Halloween, guys.
Yeah. Should we do a Halloween show where we dress up? Probably not. I couldn't be bothered.
I want to play spooky games is what I want to do. Spoopy games.
Spoopy games.
Yes. Yeah, no, I still have to finish the Cyberpunk story. Because, like, I started playing that, and it got to, like, I don't know, the 4th floor or something, and I stopped playing it for a while, and then I went back to it, and I was like, I can't remember what I was doing. I need to play this from the beginning again, which I don't mind. It's
a
pretty.
Cyberpunk story. I thought,
yes.
At first I thought you were talking about Cyberpunk 2077. Finishing the story, I was like,
I'm talking about sense. Yeah. Sense of Cyberpunk story. It's nice. Really great. I love the main character. She's pretty cool, and I love the language in there because I can understand it. It's so spooky. So I need to play with company.
Yeah, well, you should.
Let's stream
I
it
keep
sometime,
saying you should
guys.
do some live streaming. It's great. I think you'd be great streaming
Absolutely.
spooky games.
Okay, we are 15 minutes over time. We should probably
Let's
call it.
wrap it up. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for being part of the live chat if you're watching live. And if you were watching after the fact, we appreciate you being with us as well. Please leave comments below. Slam that like button. All the good stuff. I want to extend a special thank you to our Patreon supporters, to our channel members, to all the people that support us financially for whatever crazy reason they do so. Really appreciate you all. Also appreciate those who can't or don't. You know what? I mean, just listening to us, the fact that you're out there listening to us, three nerds talking about video games, is pretty special. So thank you all for being here. And I think the number one thing, as I often say, is if you share our content around, we'd really appreciate that. Help to bring in more listeners. But anyway, thank you all so much. And join the Discord server. Like I said, slam the like button. Do all the good things. Do all the things. And we will talk to you again very soon on behalf of Cybe and Moontag. We are the Triple S League. This is a Triple S League production. And we will talk to you again very, very soon. Talk to you later.